I'm excited. I could go all day.
Yes.
It's a DDoS attack, right? I'm getting booted.
A night out in
Literally the
Manchester or Dublin.
I was devastated. Put as many LAN events out there as possible. I'd like to hit 3 LAN events, right, for our first year.
I'm excited just from a competitor's point of view. I mean,
It wasn't Call of Duty as we all know it.
might be a bit of a sticky one for you.
Would you say the old Katana owners or the new Katana owners are the best?
Do I need to answer that? Because it couldn't really have happened to a more genuine bloke.
Definitely shines through being such a nice guy.
The gap's just so big at the moment.
He was like the Gordon Ramsay of Call of Duty players.
I'm still gutted that I missed out on that.
We're forever in that man's debt. Forever.
Break a controller after 2
games.
games.
Right, there's orgs leaving challengers for a reason.
Stop supporting these CDL teams. Now I'm crying. I hope you're happy.
I know, I'm babbling on.
Hello and welcome to the Vista. Today we have a very special guest. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Katana Gaming, the man that's all about the gamers, Heffy. Welcome, Heffy.
Hello, thanks for having me. How are we all? All good?
Very good.
Fantastic. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Can't complain. Got my whiskey, so I'm loving life.
I love it. Starting early. Right. I guess like the first question I had is like, where did the all about the gamers come from?
I suppose it sort of stems from, you know, how we sort of started, right? Katana, right? So we were literally all about the gamers, right? So we formed in, I think it was 2019. I think it was the start of COVID, maybe around May. And ultimately, when we first started, we were just purely about, you know, gaming, distracting yourself from the mad world that was COVID, right? Everyone was locked down. You're literally staring at the ceiling. You couldn't go out your house. I think in Ireland anyway, it was like a 5 kilometer sort of radius. I don't know what it was like in the UK. And gaming was a sort of vice, right? It was a distraction from the mad world. And we started off as a community, all about the gamers. And eventually we sort of become a little bit more structured, right? So focusing on esports, community, events and content creation. But it sort of stemmed from that, just having a community, all about the gamers, focus on the gaming and trying to, you know, block out the mad reality, and that was COVID.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it was a tough time for everyone, but at least we had gaming, right?
It got me through COVID. That's all I'm saying.
I think it got a lot of people through, right? I mean, they say sometimes gaming is good for the mental health, and sometimes it's bad for mental health. But you know, when you're talking to the same people day in day out in the same house, and you can just log on and shut yourself away from that a little bit and speak to your mates and connect. And I think it did really help people mentally through COVID. So yeah, that's pretty much where it all come from, all about the gamers.
I love that. And like, were you involved in esports and gaming before Katana, or were you just like fan, I guess?
Yeah, no. So it feels like a millennia ago now, but I've always been a you know, avid Call of Duty gamer since I was about 9, 10. You know, there with the Turtle Beach headset whacked on full, you know, drinking Lucasades to 6 o'clock in the morning, you know. I think I actually had G Fuel back then, but it was called Gamma Labs. I don't know if any of you remember that.
Gamma Labs. Yeah.
And yeah, always been passionate about Call of Duty. Played a few LANs as well, a few EGLs. Wasn't that good, but still stood up and gave some abuse over the monitors. So yeah, no, followed the sort of the Optic sort of dynasty. Hex, give him a shout out. You know, always watching. You know, he's the GOAT. But yeah, avid gamer and always had a passion for Call of Duty. But yeah,
amazing. One of the big things that Katana have announced recently is the deal that you have with your LAN center, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I suppose I don't know where to. I'll start at the beginning, right? So we originally Katana Gaming, we didn't have any interest in, you know, doing any LANs or hosting any like sort of full-on LAN events, right? We were willing to sort of participate in stuff and send teams to them. I think after the sort of ACCL situation in Sheffield and that sort of collapsed, and there was a huge gap. You know, the challenger scene being majority in, you know, in the US, sort of saw an opportunity there. Okay, and was like, okay, well, somebody's got to do it. And I was actually listening to a podcast at the time by Pablo and I think it was Major Chafin. They'd done like a little podcast series. I don't know if you followed it. It was on Spotify. And they were talking about all the different people in the Call of Duty scene and how, we've got a really great community. And ultimately, the great people in the community are just people that actually get up and do it. Like, for example, rotation amp, right? No one was providing proper coverage of challenges at the time. And he literally said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And that was a huge success. And I sort of felt at the time there was a need for LAN events. So we started looking really for venues. We got into negotiations with Belong for Belong arenas and stuff, but sort of felt they had a few good arenas, but the majority of them were in the back of shop, Sports Directs and stuff like that, and they weren't actually full-on gaming arenas. And then this sort of come about. I was reading an article. I think Carl, one of our previous owners, sort of come across them because they were in Middlesbrough, and it was all part of, I think, Richie Sunak's levelling up Middlesbrough. So there's a £9 million investment in Captain Cook Square in Middlesbrough, trying to bring Middlesbrough up to the times a bit. And this venue come about, and I dropped them an email, got on a phone call with them about a year ago, and I was like, look, interested in running LAN events? Can I come over and have a coffee? Let's have a meeting about this. And it all sort of stemmed from there, really. So, I've been over to the venue, I've met the owners, sat down, sort of got an understanding of what their ambitions are. And it has been a very, very long process, right? They've been trying to develop this venue and get it into the right state for about a year now. And we're almost there. We're almost there, right? Very, very difficult to sort of convey the sort of magnitude and the opportunity that this venue, and I can't say too much, but this won't be their only venue that they're opening, right? They're looking to open multiple venues in the UK and some around Europe. And I've been like a kid at Christmas, right? Waiting for this venue to open, and the opportunity that it can bring, it's really, I don't want to swear, but it's going to shake up UK esports big time, right? It's not just a cafe, right? It's a full-on esports arena. You've all been in Primark, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Primark in the UK, right? So it's an old Primark, so you can think of the size of it.
Huge.
High spec gaming PCs, main stage with auditorium, like you got 80 seats in front of it and stuff like that. It's a really good opportunity to start running LAN events from. So I know I'm babbling on. So
no, it's great.
No, that's exciting.
You do all the babbling.
It is great because I think like there is a need for it in the UK, right? Like you've seen how many times people have tried it and haven't succeeded, but I think it takes getting it right once, and then like you say, it's easy to scale. So like even though there's been delays, I haven't read too much into it, but there has been delays with the building and stuff, right? Which is why.
Yeah, there has been loads of delays. I mean, we had the Katana Gaming launch event planned. I don't know if any of you've seen that, right? And I can tell you more than anyone that I was devastated. It was like a slap in the face, right? So we had this whole entire meetup planned, and it was initial sort of like Katana members only, right? To do some sort of launch event. We were going to do run a switcheroo, test out the venue. One of the main things for me was making sure on that BattleNet and there wasn't any IP issues. So dealing with them and talking to them about the network, making sure on that individually each machine had its own IP address. Because when we were in ACCL at the Sheffield event, I think one of the main issues they had was they got an IP ban, right? So BattleNet blocked all the machines because everyone was trying to log on at once onto their BattleNet account, and the setup there, they didn't have multiple IPs. So BattleNet, seeing all these PCs logging on, thinks it's a DDoS attack, right? I'm getting booted. So they just blanked it. So there's a lot of technical things that were having to take place. But anyway, had the event planned, and at the very, very last minute, due to issues with the water, it's the most annoying thing ever, right? Because I was there, he had all the PCs in place, we had the games ready and stuff. But due to the water, they need to have clean water being a fully licensed venue, right? It's their part of their insurance because they're a bar and they're a restaurant as well. And apparently that wasn't all up to scratch. So he said, look, gonna have to cancel. I was devastated.
It's so hard when it's out of your control as well, right? Like,
yeah, and a lot of people had paid a lot of money for that event as well, right? And I've I made sure before anyone was paying for anything. Like, you know, it was free to enter, right? There wasn't any like tickets or anything like that, but it was like people buying trains or, you know, hotels and stuff. And I made sure that there was capital there, that if and eventually, you know, something happened, that people would be covered, and they were. So everyone's been paid back for their sort of expenses and outlay, but it was painful, you know. And a lot of people, I think people were fairly sort of supportive afterwards, you know. There wasn't too much toxic stuff on the timeline, you know. People were fairly supportive. Ultimately, I think couldn't get pissed off because the opportunity is still there with this venue. And I had a chat with the owners of the venue, and I said, look, we're in a partnership, okay? We have that agreement in place, and you know, the merits of good partners in business is how we act when the going gets tough, not when it's, you know, smooth sailing. And we're looking at long-term plans. So, you know, if they could open, they would. You know, they've been under the gun themselves. But yeah, these things happen, and you've got to learn and adapt with it, really.
Why we stay on that topic of the arena, I've got a couple of questions about it. So the whole Katana gaming layout, is that going to be a sort of similar magnitude and operation to what EEG was back in like the sort of Black Ops 4 era, where you've got the online sort of leagues on the website, and then you know you've got the LAN there for the bigger players to try and attend?
Yes, and yeah, I'm going to say yes, right? Ultimately, we want to get our first proper LAN out the way first, and do it correctly.
Yeah.
But you know, our goal is to really sort of provide good competitive events for grassroots, you know, through to challengers in online. So that's the league, if we can, tournaments as well, and LAN events. And there will be some sort of synergies between all of those, right? But yeah, in the main, I miss all the LAN events that there were in the UK. I think a lot of people do,
100%.
right? So if I could go and, you know, say I'm going to do 20 LAN events this year, I would. But of course, I need to make sure that we can walk before we can run, and that whatever we're doing is sustainable, so we can do it well and do it repeatedly, right? But yeah, I'm being passionate about Call of Duty. Want to put as many LAN events out there as possible.
No, yeah, 100%. But like the sort of EEG, would you say sort of the ballpark of size you're aiming for, or would you say bigger than what they were producing in the Black Ops 4 era?
So as big as the community can get, right? I think for our first event, we will start for about 32 team tournament, right? To sort of
Big.
Yeah, so to ease our way in. I mean, in regards to sort of going up to doubling that 64, there is capacity there. That we do have the option of getting the PCs in to do that. It's just the logistics of it all, right? It's got to be planned well. It's got to be timed well. People got to be on their machines on time playing the games.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. If I can get it to, you know, 100 teams, over 100 teams, like the Challenger events in Boston and all that, I would. You know, I think it's going to be a gradual.
100%. So but sky's the limit, and I mean, I'm excited just from a competitor's point of view. I mean, just an enthusiast at this stage, just is excited that these players are going to have something, because, I mean, the community's dying out for it, like literally crying.
Yeah.
But 100%. I mean, it just sounds fantastic. You've got me excited for sure, and I'm sure lots of others. But in that first year, what would you say, roughly event-wise, are you aiming for realistically 5, 3, 10?
I'll meet you in a bit. Well, 10 would be, you know, a lot, right? So ultimately, I want to try and plan the events around the sort of Call of Duty calendar at the same time, right? To enable people so there's not clashes, right? And to enable the most people to attend. I would try and say I'd like to hit 3 LAN events, right, for our first year. If we can do more, let's do more, right? I think after our first one, we're going to get more interest. There's going to be more sponsorship opportunities as well. There's a lot of moving parts when you're talking about LAN events, right? It's not just the teams and the players and the orgs, and there's a sort of business aspect of it, of like trying to pull in people that are selling products to sort of help boost prize pools, you know, and gather more traction and stuff like that. So one LAN event at a time. But believe me, if I could have 100 LAN events, I would, right? But of course, going to start out slowly, and I would say a realistic goal would be 3. Is my aim.
It'd be rude of me not to ask the questions. Oh, it's good, but yeah, that's all from me. I mean, I'm excited. I'm sure everyone else is. We'll leave some thoughts for the mind of everyone else.
Do you know what? From my perspective as well. Like, obviously, I own Noctem, right? And like, we sent teams to 3 challenges events last year. Obviously, costs a lot of money, right? And this year we want to do the same but bigger, right? So we want to get our content creators to land and stuff like that. But obviously, when everything's in the States, which it most likely is going to be, we are restricted in terms of like finances, right? So having like UK lands that we can get all of our creators together, all of our players together, and get all of us in one place as well. It's like a meetup for us at the same time.
Yeah.
And like
it's the community side of it as well. It's like, you know, even if you're not a competitive player, you're just a member of an org, and you know, people don't realise, but a lot of people in gaming, they come home and they jump onto their, you know, PCs or whatever, and they're talking to people hours every evening, and some people haven't even met these people, you know. So to create events where people can actually get together, have a drink, relax, say hi, it is good stuff, you know, and people do enjoy it. So, and I think it creates more of a buzz. So yeah, totally with you on that one.
You only have to look at the World Series of Warzone, right? Like the amount of people that turned out to that, even though it wasn't Call of Duty as we all know it, right? It's a completely different game, really. But you see the amount of people that turned out for that. You know that there was a buzz in the arena, even if you can see everything that we wanted to see.
Yeah, no, it's exciting stuff.
I'm still gutted that I missed out on that.
I didn't get to go either, but
no,
I
I've
heard
never
it was a
been
right
to one. I've never been to like a LAN event or like an event like that. So as soon as there's more events going on in the UK, I'm doing anything in my power to be there, even whether it's for the buzz or whether it's to meet like my, you know, Noctem friends or people who I've met online, or even just to actually gain a bit of knowledge about like competitive scene, because I'm quite new to Call of Duty and things.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where I feel like a lot of people like myself would benefit a lot more from it, like being in that environment and feeling welcomed in the environment as well. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Who doesn't want to meet up with their mates? You know, beat them at COD and have a few drinks and a laugh. You know, and you know, even if you're not that great at COD, coming along and having a go, it's all part of the fun.
It is.
You know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I guess the last question around like the LAN center from me, is it just specific to Call of Duty lands that you're aiming for, or are there other titles too?
We will look to do other titles too as well. So as part of our sort of partnership, we sort of got like exclusivity, not just on COD, but on a few other game titles as well. So we would look to do stuff, maybe Valorant potentially, Apex, and a few other titles. But ultimately, for myself, you know, the logistics and everything, I want to try and make sure that we hit Call of Duty out of the park correctly. And then once we've done that, a lot of the stuff will be rinse and repeat, right? So we'll be able to do other LAN events as well, so on different titles.
I love it. And like you say, so like you're thinking long term as well as a partnership, right? So like you don't have to try and rush and do everything at once.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking to sort of integrate. Of course, we've got the website now. It's been through a few phases. We're looking to improve it a lot more, right? There's a lot more functionality that's got to go into it. But ultimately, if you think of the Wide Lobby as a franchise and opening multiple arenas, right? We're hoping to utilize the website not just for like just online events, but for the members in those in the wide lobby, so the admins can utilize that to run their own little tournaments for the local members as well. So there's a few synergies which we're working on with the wide lobby, but yeah, a lot to do and a lot in the works for sure.
Love to hear it. Okay, like moving on to the next section, and this is this or that with AbiCoops.
Well, hi. Anyways, my name's Abby. I've got a couple of questions. I think I've got about 6 to do for you. Some of them are a little bit to do with Call of Duty. Some of them are to do with Katana, and some of them are to do with like your LAN events and things like that. So, knocking it off with the first one is: would you rather finish top 8 at every LAN, or top 3 in every Challengers Elite? If you had to pick. If you had to pick between them.
I would say top 3 in every Challengers Elite.
Okay, okay.
The money there for that, I suppose, right? But yeah, top 8 at every LAN event. I'd like to finish top 120. Do you know what I mean? Rather than top 8. But yeah,
top 3 sounds better.
Top 3 does sound better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got have a team for one game that wins everything, or 3 teams for 3 different games that place 3rd every time. What would you prefer?
3 teams for 3 games that place 3rd every time.
Okie dokie. So staying on with Call of Duty, would you prefer CDL or CWL between
One
them?
answer.
Do I need to answer that?
Well, it's just I'm asking everybody it.
Now I'm crying. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, I think
Go-
you know the answer for that already, right? So
I love asking everybody because it's just like waiting for one person to say CDL. I'm waiting for the one person to say it. So, do you prefer online tournaments or LAN events?
LAN events.
Okay. Would you prefer a boots on the ground game or jetpack titles? What's your favorite?
See, I'm old school, right?
Yeah.
So I'm an old git. So I come from Call of Duty year 4, right? So boots on the ground is what I enjoy the most. Jetpacks, go and play Halo. All that sort of jumping around stuff. But it does make the game more interesting, right? It makes it more difficult, the skill gap, and stuff like that. But yeah, it's because my movement is crap. I'm gonna say boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm quite new to Katana. I actually know a little bit about Dxshie. I've watched him on Twitch quite a bit, so that's how I actually know about you guys. So staying on the Katana type of vibe, would you say the old Katana owners or the new Katana owners are the best for the team? Like, what would you prefer, this or that?
Owners, which are better, the old Katana owners
Yeah,
or
or
the
the
new?
what would you pick? Old Katana owners or the new Katana owners?
That's a really, really difficult question, and I know if I give an answer, it's gonna upset
You're gonna be in
people,
trouble.
right? Ultimately, I think everyone that we've been fortunate to have owners that have stayed in place for a long time, but people that have gone and left, they've all brought something to the table, and they've all contributed to Katana gaming growing and developing, right? So I'll caveat it with that, right? But ultimately, I prefer the owners I have now, right? Because they're working with me now on the big
They're
things
working
that
with
we
you
have
now.
planned.
Yeah. So for my final question for you, just before we started the podcast, we spoke about your night out in Manchester.
Oh,
Would you
God.
prefer a night out
No
in
pictures as well.
Manchester or Dublin? What's your best nightlife?
I prefer Manchester without a doubt. Dublin, way too expensive. The kebabs in Manchester, top tier.
That you can have after a night out.
Yeah. And the people are friendly enough there as well. Like, do you know what I mean? And people are friendly in Dublin. Don't get me wrong, but the nightlife is definitely better in Manchester for sure.
Yep. And well, that's all for me for this or that. I've done this or that question. Thank you.
Love that. There were some tricky ones in there.
There was, yeah.
Quick fire round ones.
I think like I said previously, right? Like having the right people at the right time is like the best thing you can have, right? Like not everyone's meant to be like on the elevator for the whole ride up.
Yeah. It's about the build forward and like the little stepping stones towards where you are now.
Yeah, 100%. And some people can't. It's a tough gig, esports, right? It's a slow grind. There's a lot of investment for little return some of the time. And ultimately, if you're not passionate about esports and gaming, then it's gonna die out very quickly for you. So people do come and go.
It's the time behind it as well, like with family and things, like the actual personal lives it can like get involved with as well.
Yeah, there's a huge balance to be made there, right? And you can have weeks sometimes where you don't feel like you're actually making any progress on the goals that you've set for your org, and then sometimes things are going smoothly, and then sometimes there's quiet periods again. But you've just got to keep at it and keep consistent. And I don't know if that's a part you want to go into in a bit, but
I love it. I love it. The next sort of section that we had was around like your relationship with Dxshie and your new Call of Duty roster, because I mean, Dashie's everywhere at the moment as well, right?
Yeah, so I suppose first and foremost, like Dxshie is a player for Katana Gaming, right? And he's a streamer, but he's also a really, really good mate, and he has had a lot of success over the last, couple of months with his streaming and stuff like that. I think for me, it makes me smile, and I'm fairly proud of what he has achieved in such a short period of time, but even more so because it couldn't really have happened to a more genuine bloke, right? I'm his mate as well as his sort of org owner, right? And he is 100%. If he could do you a good turn, he would. It couldn't have happened to a nicer person. In regards to Dxshie, he's been with Katana for quite a long time, since I think Vanguard, was that 2021? I think, if I'm not mistaken, right? 2020 maybe it came out, but it's 2021.
Lose track, to be honest.
which is a way back, right? And he started out, he was around a top 64 gamer, trying to get into top 64. Really dedicated, really passionate, always wanted to improve himself. And over the years, he's done that. He's gone from top 64 to top 32. We took him to the LAN in Sheffield, the ACCL LAN, and I think himself, TK, Page and Jackson, they placed 12th for their first LAN event, right? They played against people like Luti and experienced LAN players, right? And they beat them. And it was a huge event for them, and I think that sort of gave him the fire to sort of continue on with esports. But he's gone from that strength to strength, and now he's like a top 16. He's pushing top 16 now, so he is top 16. He's not pushing; he's top 16 player. And the squad that we have now is top 16. I think they've got about 19k pro points collectively between them. He's had great success, and especially with the streaming piece, talking about challengers and the lack of events in the EU, right? It's extremely difficult for people to make a living off Call of Duty for players, not just orgs, not impossible for orgs, but for players, right? It's really, really difficult. And actually sort of come to that sort of reality is like, I'm passionate about Call of Duty. I am a competitive gamer. I want to do this for a living, but ultimately it's not feasible to make money out of it. So he said, maybe, I want to go into streaming. So we had chats about it anyway, and a few people spoke to him about it. We sort of weighed up the pros and cons, and he was like, I'm going to do it. So he was like, okay, we'll start your stream, get your graphics sorted. I try and say to people, because he's doing really, really well now, but what I find most admirable about Dxshie is the guy was working, he's working a part-time job at a pub, right? He wasn't happy with his life in regards to, he didn't want to do that, right? He was passionate about Call of Duty, and he wanted that to be his living. And he took it upon himself. His whole entire family didn't know what Call of Duty was, what esports was. They didn't understand it, right? His girlfriend didn't know what streaming really was, and that the esports sort of scene and stuff like that. But he said, you know what? No, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And he fully committed. He quit his job, and he says, I'm streaming 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. I start smashing my controller off my desk after 2 games of ranked play. This guy was playing 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? One of the most sort of dedicated, passionate people I've met, and he's just gone from strength to strength, right? He's partnered within 6 months. Twitch partner within 6 months. There's not many people that can achieve that, right? Over 2,000 subs at one stage, going from 6 people in his stream to now averaging over 140 and up. And ultimately, it's just down to the vibes he brings to his stream and his community. He's forever positive. He's a no negativity type of person. He doesn't do conflict, he doesn't do negativity, and he doesn't do bullshit either, right? They're the 3 things about Dxshie. But he brings good vibes to his stream, and he's on every single day, and he's committed to achieving his goals and milestones. We sort of have like regular meetings, like once a month we go over all the stats and go, right, okay, this is what we want to try and achieve. And month on month, he has knocked all the goals we've set out the park. And yeah, even though he's at a really good spot now, ultimately, I think the sky's the limit if he just keeps on having that sort of disciplined attitude and determination. And like I said, couldn't have happened to a greater person. And I'm chuffed with him, but I'm not going to get emotional because I haven't had too much whiskey yet. So
the thing is, as well, though, it's actually entertaining to watch. Like, it's not just the it's not just the content. It's actually entertaining. Like, I watched him like learning rank. Basically, it's the first time I've ever touched ranks, and I've learned a lot just from watching the guy. Like, and he's actually funny as well. So I feel like you've got that comments that he definitely shines through being such a nice guy. Like, you can definitely see he doesn't do conflicts and stuff. It's always positive. But yeah, he's a great face for Katana. I will 100% say that. Like, from a viewer's standpoint as well.
Yeah, no, he 100% is. And what makes it nice as well is the sort of history that he's had with the brand. You know, I feel like a lot of people in esports now, they all cop, right? There's always this sort of feeling that the grass is greener, and there's a lot to be said with sticking with the community. He's stuck with Katana. We've stuck with him, and that's just been because of his energy and, like you said, his sort of positivity and stuff. I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was over a month ago. They're tuning in. He's playing with Attach. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, what is going on? You know. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. What it holds for him, for sure.
Yeah, we're excited too, I think, and like excited to see how he competes this year as well. I'd love to see Katana in the elite alongside us. So.
Yeah, look, we've got a decent roster together, right? A lot of people say, well, why haven't you gone and you can go and get like a top 3 roster, right, or something like that. It's the return. It's the return on investment, right? You've probably seen over the last couple of months, a lot of orgs have actually stepped away from challengers, right? Because there is little return there for orgs, and there's little return there for players. And ultimately, for me, my response to anyone is like, well, why didn't you get like a top 3 team? Last year, I had the opportunity to pick up some of the top teams in Europe, right? But ultimately, it's $5,000 a pop, maybe more, $6,000, right? Sometimes 5, a little bit less. And you can fund these teams, but there's not much you get. It's a weekend, right? So there's little you get from it, and sometimes those teams change and they move and stuff like that. So for me, I've sort of made a concerted effort this year in that I want to focus on new players. I want to focus on that sort of top 16 area because I get more enjoyment of watching teams that stick around that area and sort of progress up through the ranks. That's more entertaining for me, seeing someone actually achieve, right? And ultimately get the content side of things from it as well. That's going to be a laugh. The four players we have, they're all good laugh. Jackson was in Katana before, so that's good. But yeah, that's my sort of main focus, I think, for this year, rather than $5,000 every single event.
Are they all are they all wanting to do content? Are they all eager for content, or is that more like a Dxshie thing, or is the whole team all for it?
All the team have sort of, they're not all content creators per se, right? Dxshie, being a streamer, but all of them have turned around and said, look, let's make that content for Katana Gaming. Let's give everyone that's back in Europe and watching these events sort of unfold in the US. Like, the coverage at Challenger events is really, really poor. I think the last event was fairly decent. That was like quite good, right? In the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
The stream.
Yeah, it's a stream, I mean, in Boston, I'm there with a stick going around, bloody, because there's nobody recording, there's nobody giving decent coverage. So we want to provide a bit of a content, have a bit of a laugh, go and see the major as well, and yeah, they're all for it. They're all for it because they understand that ultimately that is the only value from an org perspective, right, that we're going to get, and it's good for them as well because it spreads their name in the community. Yeah,
100%. No, that's good to hear because we spoke to Dave last week, right, and he said that still a lot of these top players, which we've said so ourselves, are really struggling to get in their heads that they need to provide more than just placing well at these events. They need to do the content. If anything, the content is more valuable right now than the placements itself to get more sponsors in and eyes up back on the scene.
On the same page with you, 100%. Like, without being too like abrupt about it, right? There are players out there with just egos. They want you to give them $5,000, right? And they're going to play for you for a couple of days, not even give you any content, potentially place top 16, not give you any financial return, and then for the next major they want $5,000 again. And it's like there needs to be a wake up call here. There needs to be a little bit of, you know, people being sensible about the situation, right? There's orgs leaving challengers for a reason. Okay, it's not feasible. So the players that are like on the same page of that and down to earth, have a passion. Like, I'm more than happy to try and support them as much as I can, because they're supporting the org as much as they can.
Yeah.
And it's a two-way thing, you know. So yeah.
I mean,
No, agree.
so do I. I mean, I was running some numbers today for like our rosters, right? Even if you have a 20% return on like all competitions, if you're spending say £750 a player for every event, you will not make a return unless you finish first in at least one elite, as well as finishing top 3 at an event and finishing top 4 in all the other events. So like that's the level that we're at to break even as an org. Which is,
wow.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane.
Which
And some players don't
happening.
even. Yeah, no. And some players don't even go. They go, no, I'm not giving you money from elite either. You know, which is like, you know, you've got the lands, but the elites not take place. Some players like, I'm not. You know, so it's that makes it even more difficult, right? Yeah, there isn't, it isn't viable. The only, I think, you know, the only way you can potentially make money out of Call of Duty Challengers is by putting people on ridiculous contracts. You have to pay them, but placing your bets on players who you think are going to get picked up, and then of course you'll get a buyout fee for that. But even then, it's hit and miss, and even then it defeats the purpose, because ultimately, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm taking a buyout. I would want a player to move from Challengers and achieve their dream goal of becoming a player in the CDL, right? So you don't want to sort of hinder that as an org owner, you know. But yeah,
I think like there is a way though, like the league could say, look, if you bring up a players from Challengers, we'll pay the buyout, a minimum buyout of, I don't know, however much you want to put in there. But that gives an incentive for orgs to be in here as well. And like,
yeah,
I don't necessarily agree that you have to make money in Challengers, right? Like you should have sponsors that can help pay for that. You should be able to get to a point with content where that's bringing you in a little bit of money as well.
Yeah.
But, like the gap's just so big at the moment between like getting a team out there to
losing, you know, or if you're not making any return, it's like you are you're burning money, right? So there has to be 100%. There has to be some return on it. Some even if you break even, right? Or even if you're just $5,000 down after the year, I'd be happy with that. But like, yeah, it's nigh on impossible, really.
Yeah, I think it will change. It's just how it changes, right? That's the
No, it will, but I think the league's the 80% of the issue, right? But I think every step of the way, I was thinking about this earlier, it's also the issue from the players got in such a rut they don't want to produce the content. They need to produce the content, but at the same point, the org owners like yourself, realistically, in these contracts, should be saying, we're not giving you money unless you're signing this bit of paper that says you're going to produce X, Y, and Z content for us.
Yep.
And then on the bottom end of the things as well, the fans, how many people that I talk to on a daily basis say that they miss a brand that they connect with?
Yep.
Then stop supporting these CDL teams. Go connect yourself with a brand in Challengers. Go buy their jersey and support them on the socials. And if we all done a little bit just like that, then I think the league and everyone else, the sponsor, would have no choice but to come in and go, yeah, do you know what? We're going to support this more because the want's there. Instead, it's been neglected from every aspect, and now we're at this stage.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And you know, you get them egotistical players, you know, take the money, don't want to do the content, and then they're going to leave your org as well, and they're not interested in your org. They're not interested in the success, and you've got a community there which is following your org, right? So do you either take those 5 or 4 players who are going to take that money from you and leave, or do you try and invest in up and coming players which, you know, might not place as well, but a part of your community? Your community wants to see them succeed. Your community's interested in watching them go over to the States and compete in this amazing tournament and watch them progress, because ultimately they are with your brand and investing in you as much as you're investing in them. And it's a sort of a long-term thing, not just give me $5,000 for this weekend. And some players ask it, a couple of weeks before the event, and it's it doesn't help the scene. It doesn't help the scene. And if more players were aligned to sort of, like you said, aligning to some sort of org in challengers, supporting the community, producing the content, ultimately it's going to help that community thrive, which is going to bring more opportunities about and make the scene a lot better and make it thrive. So
it's coming though. It's coming. Like people like yourself, Katana and Noctem, people that are investing in just below them big names, and these big names you're seeing, they're free agents. They're looking for orgs. They're not getting it. They're going to clock that they've got to do it. And if not, these boys are going to take their space because they're going to get all the investment.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the top players that haven't been picked up by the CDL for this year. It's it blows my mind. There's some really, really good talent there. I still will always go, well, I want to back the new talent that's coming in, right? I mean, you guys have some great players on. No, I would say are still relatively new, like F. and Junk and all that sort of stuff. So I would always be a firm believer of backing the new names over the old names that have been around in the scene, have been there, done it, had their opportunity and chances, because we want to see more talent coming through, and
I think it
It's
helps
exciting,
with the
yeah.
storyline as well, right? Like for the content. So
yeah.
love it.
I'm
Okay.
excited like a go all day.
Yes. Well, actually, it's a good time for you to go all day, Copy, because this section is quickfire. Copy.
Oh, can I have one? Can I have one non-quick fire? I have a question I've wanted to ask, and it hasn't really fitted in. But Katana Gaming, I asked Jack the same around Noctem. What is the purpose behind the name? How did you come to Katana Gaming as the name of your brand?
So realistically, it was totally random in regards. It was a bit random, right? We sort of aligned with sort of there's a synergy between like anime and sort of gaming, right? From that side of things, we wanted something that was short and sort of sweet. From our colours, red, we chose red because red produces the most brain activity and stuff like that. So there was a small sort of like marketing exercise behind it, but just wanted something that stuck. There was no reason. I mean, I'm not there walking around with Katana in my bedroom going, I'm going to call it Katana
yeah.
Gaming. But it was cool. It's short, I've always been a fan of Optic. If you look at our logo, it's simple, and I don't want to say it looks like the Optic logo, but I was trying to sort of replicate the sort of theme of it, and 2-syllable, and that's where it sort of come from.
And now I know. So fantastic. But let's get into some quick fire questions. Let's hit you with the first one. Your favorite ever Call of Duty?
Oh Jesus! People are not gonna like me for this, given that some of them don't like the maps on the new beta. But it would be Modern Warfare 2, the old Modern Warfare 2, Favela, Terminal.
Cool.
Maps.
Goosebumps.
Afghan, high rise. Jumping on the crane like a maniac, doing 360 no scopes and intervention. Love it. Yeah, that would be my main one, and I think that's the main one. Ultimately, that was before. I think Red Bull done a LAN on that Call of Duty. I think it was the COD after that when LAN started to pick up a little bit more. Black Ops would be second, but Modern Warfare 2 first, and that's just because got so many memories on that one. So.
I mean, that's a great choice. And let's follow on with that naturally. What is your favourite ever weapon in Call of Duty?
M16.
That was quick. What? COD 4 M16?
COD 4 M16.
First.
Yeah. Always a fan. Always a fan of the COD 4 M16. The MP5 though. Or the UMP45 in Modern Warfare 2.
It's different.
The M16 used to absolutely rip on Call of Duty 4, and then the burst weapon sort of died out a bit. They come back a bit in the sort of Black Ops and stuff. Was it the X8 or XM8, or whatever it's called? Yeah. Now it's all fully automatic, isn't it? ACRs and stuff like that.
Favorite ever Call of Duty Pro?
I would say Scump, right? That's an obvious answer. Can I give you two? Can I give you two names? I'll just give you two.
Fire
So
away.
I would say Scump, but I also like Parasite back in the day because he always used to come and cause an upset. He was like the Gordon Ramsay of Call of Duty players. You put him on a squad and he'd make that squad gel and perform well. And he always used to give loads of shit as well. So it was a bit controversial. So I like Parasite. But yes, you can't beat the king. Scump.
We're forever
Yeah.
in that man's debt. Forever. Who do you think? Right, we asked Dave the same thing. A player that hasn't yet stepped foot in the league. Who do you think is the next player to make it from the EU region?
It's really difficult to tell at start of this game, right? I think the mechanics are all, they're a little bit different, but ultimately, who do I think? New now, not someone that's dropped down and going back up, right?
No.
I think you've got a couple of players that have got good opportunities there, And what I'll do is I'll caveat it. I won't be biased with any of the players that I know or have played for Katana and pick up. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see Felix maybe. I'd like to see him succeed. That is a really, really difficult question. If you ask me in a couple of months' time, I'll be able to tell you properly. Yeah.
Felix is a good shout, though, to be honest. Talented player.
He keeps his head down and
that's the thing for Missy's players.
On the trajectory.
Comedy as well. He's absolute comedy.
Yeah.
Unreal. What is the favorite ever event that you've attended with Katana?
So it would, even though it was a travesty, I'd say it was the ACCL LAN event that we went to, right?
Blimey.
Because we had like over 30 people turn up at that event. We're all wearing Katana gaming jerseys, and we just got absolutely pissed. And it was great. We showed really what the weekend is about. It's about the LAN event, yes, but it's also about the community coming together, like you guys were saying, and meeting up and having a laugh. So that would probably be the most fun event. Katana's been to. Boston was a laugh as well in the States. But yeah, from a community point of view, because there's a lack of events in the UK, I would say any event where you get more of your members there and more of your community is going to be a more enjoyable event, right? Yeah, you have a laugh with your teams, if you're going over there with a coach and stuff in the US, but ultimately your members is what makes the events more enjoyable.
I respect it. And now I've got two Katana questions. It might be a bit of a sticky one for you, but answer as you want.
Here we go. Yeah, go for it.
The roster you've announced this week for Call of Duty next season, are they making it to the first elite of the year?
I'd like to believe so, yes, if not second, right? It totally depends how they settle in as a squad. I've got full confidence in them. They are, around that sort of top 16. So they've got a bit to go, right? But never say never. If they put in the work, I'm always gonna back them. I'm always gonna support them, even if the odds were all against them, right? I'm not gonna say they're not, right? So I'm gonna say yes.
I like the confidence. That's the vibe, right? I love the confidence. So if there's some odds out there, then
that's gonna be memed now, and But
you've said it now.
I've said it. It's out.
I'm going to throw you in the deep end. Will we see a Katana LAN at the wide lobby before the end of January 2024?
Probably not. I would say probably not. My goal, if I would like to say yes, I'd say it happened in the first 3 months potentially.
First quarter.
Yeah. There's always issues when a new card comes out, right? Lobbies, how the game works, bugs, and stuff like that. So let it settle a little bit. Let the GAs come in, right, and make sure that no one's absolutely frying someone with a stupid gun. Because it's next month the game comes out, right? I'm not
November 10th. Yeah, we are.
Not hurry up
about
enough.
3 weeks away. November 10th.
So that's
hurry.
That's halfway through November already. When it gets to December, there is that potentially was a major coming along, but I don't know if that's been cancelled. Been rumours.
December 16th, the rumor, but it meant to be a 3-day long DreamHack, so that might probably be a pro-am. So
See, so there would be a clash there potentially, teething issues with the game as well. So if I said January, if you want to come down, we'll have a few beers in January and play a little bit of COD at the event. We can do that.
Is that an invitation?
A 1v1, maybe 100%.
Sign me up. Sign me up. I'll book it now.
But LAN event, I want to make sure that's done right, because people are paying money, and it has to be done right.
I mean, that's what the community wants here, right? After the shambles before.
The shambles, right? Yeah.
So no, I'm really impressed, to be honest, and thank you for answering the questions. I'm excited for next year. I can say that.
So am I. Buzzing.
Love it. And we've literally got one last section of the show. I'm sorry we've kept you for so long.
No worries at all.
The last section is just any other business. Have you got anything that you'd like to ask us? Anything at all?
Who here is the best at Call of Duty on this call?
Currently,
I've still got a 1v1 copy. No, I'm joking. No, copy.
Yeah, copy. I'm too old now.
No other business. Like as I said, like in regards to Katana Gaming, our sort of goals and ambitions. Yeah, I mean, if you guys are going to the events in the States, it'd be great to meet up and have a few beers with you there. Like you said, if you want to, sort out a little get together in January, potentially, we can do that as well. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on. And yeah, if you want to jump on some ranked and cry whilst watching me play, that's
break a controller
well.
after 2 games.
Absolutely. So what we can take from this is that an invite to the next Katana Open Day to all Noctem staff.
Sounds good.
See how you do in that 1v1 first. Yeah.
Oh, sign me up. That's you and Chunk now. I've got to take down. Oh God.
Still waiting for that chunk one. Still waiting for that one.
Yeah, he's gone missing. He's not
he's
to be seen. He saw me on the beta. He thought, no, not today. He'll embarrass me. Chunk God, where are you?
Get Felix to sign in on your account and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna need someone to sign in my account. Yeah, that's for sure, because I'll get smoked.
Oh mate,
Good stuff.
Have some faith in yourself. But,
Oh yeah. I'm in my prime.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Heffy. Thank you to Abby. Thank you to Copy, and see you next time.
Adios.
Adios.